Hello and welcome to Asia Gaming Brief's face-to-face series. Today I'm going to be talking with Samuel Yingxiao Yang, who is an Associate Director with Maybank. We're going to be talking about Genting Singapore and Genting Malaysia and the opening of the SkyWorlds theme park. So thanks very much for joining us today, Samuel. You cover, obviously, Malaysia, Singapore, Southeast Asian gaming stocks. Mm-hmm. In your coverage universe, what would be your top pick at the moment and why?
Right. Hi, Sharon. Thanks for having me on your show. So for us, it has to be Genting Malaysia in this day and age of COVID and the closed COVID and closed borders. Only the IRs which have a large domestic customer base will thrive. So so this basically suits Genting Malaysia. I mean, 80% of the earnings comes from Resorts World Genting, where a whopping 90% of its customer base is domestic. I mean, if you look around the region, arguably no other IRs in the region have a kind of customer profile, with the exception maybe of the Philippine IRs. I don't think any other IR is in this favorable position. And the opening of Genting SkyWorlds will also drive visitor arrivals. Now, this call has not been very easy. The quarter of last year when Delta was rampaging across Southeast Asia, including Malaysia, we did have some butterflies in our stomach, but COVID seems to have calmed down a bit in Malaysia. So hopefully this year will be a much better one for Genting Malaysia, and we think the earnings will recover quite quickly this year.
And what impact do you think the theme park will have?
It should be instrumental. The funny thing about theme parks in Malaysia is that, until Genting SkyWorlds, actually there have been no major theme parks in the Klang Valley, despite it being the wealthiest and the most populous region in Malaysia. Until now, hitherto, most major theme parks have been located in Johor, which is nearer to Singapore. So I'm sure Genting SkyWorlds will be well received. Now, to be sure, I don't and have never expected the theme park to be profit making, largely due to heavy depreciation, which we estimate will come in about $80 million a year. That's very steep. Yet we are quite confident that you'll bring in many more visitors. As a rule of thumb, one out of every two visitors to Resorts World Genting will wander into the casino. So we expect that Genting SkyWorlds to welcome about 3 million visitors a year. It follows that 1.5 million visitors will wander off the casino, and that's where the real profits or cream will be, so to speak. Yeah.
I think you've put some figures to that, haven't you?
Yeah. So, assuming that each mass market visitor spends about 150 ringgit per visit, and we ascribe about 40% EBITDA, we should be looking at an incremental EBITDA of anywhere between 150 million to 180 million. So, and we haven't even accounted for the fact that the everyday items up there, for example, hotel room rates, and the price of food and beverage, and even parking rates, all those prices could go up when the theme parks open. So there are additional spillover effects which we haven't quite factored into our estimates just yet. Yeah.
So you were all pleasantly surprised by the park itself?
Oh yes, yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
World class?
I would say so. Yeah, basically, it's not. This theme park has been delayed for so many years and beset by so many issues. But I would say in the end, the trip up there was well worth it. Yeah.
And what about sister company Genting Singapore? I think you've said that you're sort of quite neutral on Genting Singapore. What do you see looking ahead for this year?
I think it's going to be a bit difficult to recover to pre-COVID levels. Singapore is opening up, and that's important. But it's not going to open up to pre-COVID levels just straight away. I mean, first things first. They have a domestic customer base, which accounts for about 20% of VIP volumes and 60% of the mass market. But a very big market for them is basically the Malaysian market, because Malaysia is basically hinterland for Singapore. Singapore is opening up, but the issue is that the land vaccinated travel lane, the land VTL, which is very important for the Singaporean mass market, it's just too small. Malaysians used to account for about a quarter of VIP volume and a third of mass market giving revenues for Singapore during the pre-COVID years. But that was when 250,000 Malaysians crossed into Singapore daily. Right now, the land VTL is admitting only 720 people a day. It's a very big difference. So 720, Malaysians crossing will not make a difference.
Any expectations as to when they might ease that further and let more people across?
The thing is that both sides want, the businesses on both sides want that to happen, but the governments on both sides want to hear them out and want to accommodate them. But it's just that Singapore is going through an Omicron wave right now, and Malaysia looks like it's at the beginning of one. So I'm afraid that the land VTL quota will stay low for quite a while.
That's unfortunate. And obviously, we've got another question mark hanging over travel once the borders do reopen. The Chinese gamblers will come back in. Will that affect the companies you cover? Which will be the worst affected there?
Right. I'm not so worried for Genting Malaysia. Again, 90% of its business are local. I am only a little bit more worried for Genting Singapore. The Chinese used to account for about 50% of VIP volumes during the heydays of 2010 to 2015. But that kind of slipped to about 25% from 2016 to 2019 due to the deceleration in the Chinese economy, the anti-graft drive, the capital controls. So that's the risky part, I would say. Actually, come to think of it, that 25% may, in a way, no longer exist because of the the passing of new legislation in China, banning the solicitation of cross-border gambling. That was eventually passed in March of last year. The mass market side, the Chinese surprisingly don't feature very prominently. For the last 10 years, we've been trying to find a correlation between the mass market Singapore and Chinese visitation. It's not there. At least to us, it doesn't look like it exists. So, in a good way, Singapore's exposure to China is more of the it's more of the low margin VIP market. So if we take it all together, let's say that the 25% of VIP volumes coming from Chinese VIPs, assume that they're gone forever. We think that the impact, to Marina Bay Sands and Genting Singapore's earnings will come in slightly less than 10%. So that's not too much of an issue.
So obviously we're entering the third year now of extremely low levels. The companies have cut costs all over the board. Is there much more that they can do in terms of operational efficiencies?
I'm afraid not. For Resorts World Genting in Malaysia, they used to hire 15,000 staff, but they cut the number down to less than 10,000. For Sentosa, Resorts World Sentosa, they used to employ about 14,000 staff, but has cut the number down to about 6,000. So the percentage cut in the staff at Resorts World Sentosa is a lot greater than at Resorts World Genting. So Anything more, they will be scraping the bottom of the barrel, bottom of the proverbial barrel. They could consider cutting rebate and general commission rates, but that will be counterproductive as it will drive gamblers away. So I'm afraid the two IRs have done the best that they can.
Okay. And do you see any signs of stress in the balance sheets, or are they still good and solid?
Definitely not for Genting Singapore. They are sitting on about 2.9 billion Sing dollars of net cash as at the quarter of last year. That's the envy of the gaming world, I'm sure.
Yeah.
For Genting Malaysia, its balance sheet was a net debt to the tune of 2 billion US as at the quarter of last year. That being said, most of the debts are not repayable immediately. It's quite evened out. In fact, it's so comfortable with the balance sheet. Last year in May, they took us by surprise when they actually paid back one of their $300 million debt early by a year. So, if their balance sheet was under strain, they wouldn't have done that. So I think that they're quite comfortable with the balance sheet. And this year should be a good year for Genting Malaysia. So for both companies, I don't think that their balance sheets are under any strain. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Samuel. That's great.
Oh, thanks, Sharon. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Please tune in every Friday for Asia Gaming Brief's face-to-face interviews with thought leaders in Asia's gaming industry.